Well, it's New Thought Talk. I am the Reverend Steve from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera. And as we get started with our show, we got a great show today. I've got a fantastic guest. I want to read something to you to open up with. Albert Einstein said that no problem can be solved from the same consciousness that created it. We must see the world anew. When we apply this quote to our lives, we see that we cannot create abundance by staying in the consciousness of poverty, nor can we gain a sense of power in our lives while identifying ourselves as a victim. Whether our intention is to change ourselves or some element of the world around us, we cannot simply wish for transformation or hope that our lives will be altered through circumstance. If our patterns of thought and behavior remain unchanged, our lives will unfold as much as they have previously. Making change, managing change, mastering change is on the agenda of all who expect to remain relevant and to relate to this new season in the universe and in time. Wayne Dyer puts it this way: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And what I read to you is something that I pulled from a streaming video by our guest for today. He's been with us once before. This is Bishop CarltonPearson out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He is an incredible spiritual leader. I feel so privileged to have him on the show today. But what he shared in what I read you is, in fact, a lot of his life experience. When Bishop Carlton was on the show last August, he had just returned to Tulsa after almost effectively being driven out of town because of the revelations that came to him and what he began to share as a spiritual leader. He moved to Chicago, and he has come back. You know, most men in this type of situation where they have been to the top, being extremely successful and losing it all, sometimes would fold their tent up and go away. But this man has a message, and he's brought it to the world. He's bringing it to the world now. He's got some incredible things going on and some new stuff coming out. Bishop Pearson, Carlton, my friend, welcome to the show. I am so glad that you're with us today.
Steve, it's always great to be with you and to hear your reflective thoughts and values and the virtue of your own calling, which you're obviously passionate about. You always have a real concern for your area, your people, the movement, as I would call it, toward expanded consciousness, which we call New Thought. You're one of the real trench. You've not only been in the trench, you've helped dig those trenches, and which are it's like breaking up fallow ground in which seeds will be sown, and a great harvest, I promise you, you will reap.
Well, thank you for the kind words, my friend. You know, you hit Tulsa back around August of last year, and you moved there because your aging father was not doing too well, and recently he's made his transformation, and my heart goes out to you and your family for that. But he's not the only one. Since the beginning of the year, you've had friends and family members, people within the ministry that have, for one reason or another, made their transition. I've listened to you talk on some of your streaming videos about your life experience with these individuals, the impact that they've had on your life, and you're still here. And you've got your message, and you have learned and incorporated from your whole life experience as you're now bringing new thought to the world. And you know, I find this somewhat humorous in a way. You are one of the, what I will call the rising stars in the New Thought field, if you will. But you didn't come out of any of the organized New Thought organizations. You came out as a Pentecostal minister, and through your learning process, your self-educating process, you have made this. And it's been quite a ride. Now, you have your Church Without Walls, and I want to start there. Tell us about your Church Without Walls. How's that going for you? And give me some insight to that, please.
Well, first of all, some people call themselves New Thought, and they actually haven't even had one in about 40 years. I really am having new thoughts because my old thoughts dominated the first 50 years of my life. And of course, we say new thought is basically ancient wisdom. There is a huge populace on this planet of old thinkers who are being prodded in their spirit to think anew. The Greek word for repentance, which John Baptist came preaching, and as did Jesus, we're told, was repent, metanoia, rethink, or after you've thought, think again. Reconsider. The kingdom of God is near, or nigh, or now. It's within you. And we've sought the king domain, or the thinking, the dominion, the dome-like cavity that covers the brain. That dome, even Golgotha, or the place of the skull, has reference to do with thought, thinking, rethinking, thinking again. So there's a world out there that I'm finding that is so eager to repent or rethink, and that is the Church Without Walls that we're building. We're up to around 26 to 27,000 now, who are around the globe, very eager to hear what we're talking about and to reconsider what they believe and why they believe it and how those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of their lives. I'm actually observing a movement outside of the traditional or quote-unquote institutional New Thought movement who are really new thinkers. And one of the things I encourage New Thought people to do is to stay fresh and current and don't become overly have too much certitude about where they are and can't expand, because you narrowcast rather than broadcast. So you're one of those who really want to extend and expand the reach and realm of New Thought. And I think that's what itches you the most, and you're finding how to scratch it. And that's good.
You know, in the New Thought worldview, so to speak, the concept of universality of oneness, this divine presence of being, there's nowhere that God is not, and the logical conclusions that you have to draw once you come to that decision. I truly believe that what we're seeing today and the message that you bring, as I watched a lot of the videos that you've put up in this concept of oneness, that peace in the world begins with us. And we will bring peace to the world as we bring peace into our own lives and our own hearts. And for you, having gone, you had this very large, successful organization, and as you came out, so to speak, with a revelation of what you call the gospel of inclusion, and you lost that. And you lost that in a very rather rapid manner. And as we were speaking earlier, you said that your last service there was on New Year's Eve. And after you got home and you were home in the house and it was quiet, that your son came to you and said, "You did good, Daddy." And that touched me. I thought, how powerful is that? But you know, on a different level, you really did good, because you know you discovered this new consciousness and you brought it to the world. You didn't make a business decision to stay in the pulpit at a very successful church and continue sharing what you had shared for 40 years earlier. That must have been quite a process for you.
It was a desperate attempt to get beyond boredom. Being bored is, I learned that from my kids. That was the cardinal sin with my daughter Majesty. Daddy, we're bored. Daddy, we're bored. Feeling weary because of being unoccupied, or
right.
A lack of interest or of the current activity. It just wasn't appealing to me anymore. And so that's torture. That was frightening to me. My soul was lean. We were fat, but we weren't growing. We were getting fat as a ministry, but we weren't growing. I had tens of thousands of people in arenas, and I would be very distracted. Great preaching, great teaching, great music, great worship. Mm-hmm. And yet my soul was saying, there's got to be more to it than this. Something is not hitting the spot. And that's what I'm finding among many, many fundamentalist Christians and other religions, including Jews and Muslims and Hindus. And there's just the ancient religions that have been institutional religions that have been in place for the last several millennia are sort of running out of steam. And their adherents are saying, I don't know if this is working for me anymore. And so they may get into a little bit of Zen Buddhism, a little bit of the science of mind, a little bit of Kabbalah, a little bit of Pentecostalism, and they're mixing all these different religious disciplines inclusively and making up their own potion. And but they're also looking for a point of identity.
Yes, they are.
Those who are coming out of fundamentalism are really saying, well, let's rally. Is there anybody else that, am I crazy? And then they'll read a book like Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, who, you know, I hosted this weekend here in Tulsa.
Right.
Or one of Wayne Dyer's books, or something that Eckhart Tolle said on Oprah's show, or something that Michael Beckwith is preaching down in Los Angeles, or when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Exactly.
The students, the academy, they're ready.
They are ready.
So teachers are beginning to appear, not just in personalities or persons, but in books and contacts and connections and ideas and ideologies. There's this wonderful shift in consciousness and religious sensibilities globally. And people are starting to ask questions, answer questions, and then question their answers.
Exactly. And they're looking, and they're no longer accepting as at face value just because it was in a book. You know, whether we're talking about the Bible, people that one time believed that it was the literal word of God, that, as you say now, they see it as the book about God. And, you know, as they begin to question it, science is opening up new vistas and new doors. We're learning more about the human being, the human spirit, the human mind, and our connection. And many of these things have been talked about in spiritual circles for many years. We didn't have the science behind it, but we had an understanding. And you know, it's powerful. We're going to cut away to our first break, and we'll be back in a bit. Thank you.
Okay.
This segment is brought to you by Jonathan Rooker of the Law Office of Nuttall and Coleman. We help good people during tough times. Call 441-0441.
MPS Security, Fresno's premier private security and investigative services. They exceed expectations. Call them at 559-478-7747.
For Italian cuisine, you've grown up knowing that DeCicco's in Clovis has the best. Now, for grown-ups, DeCicco's Lounge at Clovis and 4th in downtown Clovis for your after-work relaxation and all of your special events needs. DeCicco's Clovis Lounge.
The Simonian family has been farming in the valley for 3 generations. Cold weather, drought, or accidents made ag investments risky. In 1951, C.D. Simonian started his own insurance agency to protect valley farmers from the uncertainty of the unknown. For your agricultural insurance needs, call C.D. Simonian Insurance Agency at 559-834-5333 or visit us on the web at cdsimonianinsurance.com. Join us for the AME Food Safety Show on Central Valley Talk. With increasing numbers of people having bacteria and virus health challenges, the program helps people make safe food choices. We give you the best nourishment research and facts and let you decide on your next food decisions. Watch the AME Food Safety Show Saturdays at noon on CentralValleyTalk.com.
In 1985, Larry Korth set out to help his friends, family, and community find affordable ways to buy a home or a business property. 30 years later, Mid-Valley Financial is the premier mortgage banker in the Central Valley. The professional staff at Mid-Valley will find the best mortgage products for your family. Mid-Valley Financial takes great pride in being the Central Valley's local lender. Visit us at midvalleyfinancial.com.
Are you currently shopping for solar? Give Solar Negotiators a call. You see, what they do is they fill downtime at a reduced rate to make sure that you always get the best deal. Don't find out later that you could have bought your solar for thousands of dollars less. Call Solar Negotiators.
If you're looking to go solar with confidence and have someone represent you in this transaction, give Solar Negotiators a call at 844-OWN-SOLAR or visit solarnegotiators.com.
For all of your real estate needs, call Mike Briggs Properties, 559-486-6758, or check us out at MikeBriggsProperties.com.
This segment is brought to you by Michael Robles Voice Actor, a Spanish and English-speaking voice for your business. Check him out at www.michaelroblesactor.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I'm the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera, and my guest for today is Bishop Carlton Pearson out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Carlton, as we were in the break, and I want to start back with your welcoming back into Tulsa, the return in the spiritual community there. Let's tell the audience what you were telling me, because I think this is very positive as so far as the evolution of consciousness in the community.
Well, I'll start with a statement that Maya Angelou often said, is that people don't necessarily remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And my absence from this city for 5, almost 6 years, gendered in the people a forlorn missing of whatever we brought to the table that made them feel differently about themselves. And so even when I was pastoring in Chicago and traveling around, they kept saying, "We miss your presence, Pastor. We miss your presence, Bishop. Are you ever coming back? You belong to us. You belong with us. You're part of us." And I run into people all the time whose babies I dedicated, and those kids are looking at me and they're 40 years old, and they've got gray hair and they've got grandkids, and I ask them to pleasantly step out of my face. It's like I served 3 generations in this town, so I have 40 years of root and fruit here.
Yeah.
And there's a connection and a bonding that nothing has seemed to break. And now that I'm back, there's this huge attitude. We didn't understand it. It took us by surprise. You shocked us. But now we've been thinking and rethinking and revisiting, and you're not as bad as we thought. We actually apologize for treating you so harshly. Well, please don't leave again.
That's wonderful. And you made the front page of the Tulsa World on Wednesday, the day before you had your event with Neil Donald Walsh. Now, that was your first live event in Tulsa on something like that, correct?
Yes. Well, I've been speaking at the All Souls Unitarian Church every 3rd Sunday of the month since January. But it hasn't been, it's just that for that local community.
Right.
This was
an event.
600,000 people this time, the newspapers. And which the media has always been kind to me, toward me, and it seems to be that way now. There's this other world outside of the stringent fundamentalist world I lived in when I was associated with Oral Roberts and Oral Roberts University.
Right.
And I was there, by the way, last night on the 60th floor of the City of Faith, which we built. There was another world out there that basically runs the city. They're at the Chamber of Commerce. They're downtown. Some of them are very strong, powerful Jewish people who are reformist. I was actually introduced to President Obama in the home of Mr. Kaiser, a man here named Henry Kaiser, who owns the Bank of Oklahoma. And he's a very progressive reformist Jew, very powerful, very creative, and our city is changing because of him. But that group has been more kindly disposed toward me and my message than the group that I kind of got the left finger fellowship from.
Yes. Well, it came out.
They're changing too.
Came out with the Gospel of Inclusion. This was the first book by Bishop Pearson that I was introduced to, and it tells his story. It tells your story, and the difficulties that you experienced in Tulsa, and then you left, and you went to Chicago. You were there, excuse me, at Johnny Coleman's Christ Universal Temple up there for a period of time, and then you went independent, and then you evolved back into Tulsa, and I'm glad to see that you are being welcome there. I think it will be a great foundation for you to build from, and in the process of all that, you wrote another book called God is Not a Christian. Now, as you've evolved in your understanding of God, that makes sense to you. But how do you, coming back to Tulsa, how do these people that you're talking to and associating with now, how do they associate? How does that resonate with them?
Well, initially the term to Christians, God is not a Christian, is offensive. So I added nor Jew, Muslim, Hindu, which to say God is not what you are religiously, God is what you are spiritually. The book is still quite stunning. That title, I remember the New York Times dared me to use it as the name of a book. That was originally what I was going to call the Gospel of Inclusion. But when I finished writing the Gospel of Inclusion, as God is not a Christian, I thought I didn't really address that subject. I just talked about basic Christian universalism in that book for fundamentalists who want a scriptural explanation of my position about the ultimate salvation of the planet. They could read that book. So the book God is not a Christian has extended into New thought.
Right.
Or even beyond that into what I call expanded consciousness, where we no longer believe in a God who demands blood sacrifices, who has terrible anger management problems, that God is a false God, and that there is another ultimate reality far beyond and besides that particular opinion that is more far-reaching, inclusive, unconditionally loving, present everywhere, all-powerful, and is inextricably connected to all that is. And that consciousness is everything, and consciousness is energy. And how we use and manipulate energy determines how we experience our lives. So it's a metaphysical, of course. I call myself a metacostal.
There you go.
When I preach at the Unitarian Church, I call them unicostals.
Because
we still believe in the power of transcendence.
Yes, absolutely.
You go into a trance and leave one reality and create another one or experience another one, but you don't forget your roots, and you don't deny or denounce them.
Yeah, and you
extend and expand them.
And that's where I'm not sure if it was Michael Beckwith. He's, I think, the first person I actually remember hearing the phrase "new thought, ancient wisdom" used by. But and new thought is not it's not a definitive something. It's an evolving something, kind of like our understanding of what God is. But our roots go back to this, ancient times, ancient philosophy, ancient teaching, and a lot of Christian people, because in mainstream Christian churches, they teach the book, whatever the translation is that they're working out of. It's King James or the NIV or whatever. They teach the book, but they don't teach the history of the evolution of Christianity. There were many early Christians that believed in a concept of a oneness of God, or that believed that the God of the Old Testament was not the God of Jesus, and they explained it in their own ways. And that all got kind of lost in the dust of history, so to speak. But with the advent of computers and the availability of books and stuff, we're learning these things and bringing them to light, because it makes so much sense in our world. As spiritual beings experiencing a physical expression that we call life, that disconnect between us and God, as God is the guy that walked through the Garden of Eden, the guy that we got a 911 if we're in some kind of a problem situation, versus an all-inclusive God, a God that's everywhere.
Well, New Thought is actually a modern expression of what the ancients called Gnosticism, knowing. Gnosis is the Greek word for knowledge. Gnosis, diagnosis, prognosis, or ignosis, ignorance, doesn't mean not to know. It means to ignore what is possible, or to ignore what is really obvious in your spirit. So the Gnostics were criminalized by the Western church when the church moved from east to west, and it became more vilified and denounced. So my conflict, Steve, I think the conflict of the planet right now is this. What you know, I believe that the reason we've all come here is because we know something, but we forgot it.
Yeah.
And in our spiritual amnesia between the womb and the tomb, we panicked because we felt alienated and isolated and victimized by creation, and that we don't belong here. We forgot that we agreed to come here. So what we know in our soul and in ourselves is that we're okay and everything is okay. that God is good and we are gods and we are expressions of divinity and that we're not poor or sick or dead or even dying. We are alive and alert and well and we are infinite beings. But we don't believe that.
Yeah.
What you know is what your soul experiences, what you believe is what you've been taught or told. So there's a conflict between belief and Gnosticism. Believing and knowing. People are in prison right now because they know they're not poor, but they believed they were and robbed a bank or cheated the government. Mm-hmm. They are in prison because they know they're alive and well and secure, but they didn't believe that, so they violated somebody or some law to give them a greater false sense of security. When we lay aside what we believe and more focus on what we know, which is our essence, our permanent rather than accidental being, mm-hmm. Once we focus on that, we relax and say, what am I panicking about? I signed up for this. I came here loaded with everything I need to experience my divinity, express it, and expose it. It's all good because it's all God. It's sort of a comprehensive redemption. And it's beautiful. So that's what I'm trying to embrace and promulgate in the earth. And it's beginning to take hold at a level that it hasn't, I think, ever in history.
And that's, I'm going to use this kind of as a segue into talking in our next segment about what you're doing with Neil Donald Walsh. His book was significant early on in your transition, and yes. We're going to open up with that because you shared that story during the last break, and I want to touch on that. And then I want to touch on what you and Neil are doing, because you're taking this. You call it join the conversation about God. And I like that. It's a conversation that is really ripe for our time in a world that has been so down on religion because of the baggage that religion brings. It's time to let's open up the conversation about spirituality and stuff. So we're going to cut away to our next break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Great.
See you then.
This segment brought to you by Art Douglas Plumbing Incorporated. For all of your plumbing, heating, and air conditioning needs, call 559-222-5306.
Better Ceramic Tile is a locally owned and operated family business since 1975. They clean ceramic and porcelain tile and aggregate and PebbleTech floors. Call Better Ceramic Tile at 299-2878 or check them out at betterceramictile.com. Marty, the concrete guy, specializes in all types of concrete work. Contact Marty at theconcreteguy.com or call him at 559-718-9952. Located on Avenue 9, Toca Madera Winery's beautiful tasting room overlooks undulating hills covered with majestic vines. A perfect place to taste wine. Call Toca Madera Winery at 474-8286 or visit them on the web at tocamadeirawinery.com.
We are conveniently located across from Bullard High School on North Palm Avenue in Fig Garden. Morales Wellness Dental offers quality-oriented family dental care and service in a personalized and comfortable manner. As you enter our office, you'll always be greeted by our warm, caring dental team and will be invited to relax in our finely appointed lobby. We have 7 patient treatment suites that feature monitors for your in-op entertainment and diagnostic review. Our comfortable hygienist suites are the ideal setting for regular cleanings and checkups. As safety is our utmost priority, all instruments are put through our modern sterilization center. Furthermore, our sedation suite offers you both comfort and peace of mind during advanced dental procedures. And for your privacy, we have 2 separate patient consultation offices. Take the worry out of your next dental visit by calling us today. Experience our commitment to excellence, respect, and honesty at Morales Wellness Dental.
Are you currently shopping for solar? Give Solar Negotiators a call. You see, what they do is they fill downtime at a reduced rate to make sure that you always get the best deal. Don't find out later that you could have bought your solar for thousands of dollars less. Call Solar Negotiators.
If you're looking to go solar with confidence and have someone represent you in this transaction, give Solar Negotiators a call at 844-OWN-SOLAR or visit solarnegotiators.com.
You have sleep questions? Mattress Land Sleep Fit has real answers. Ugh, I feel like people need a map to find their way around some mattress stores.
No, what people actually need is BedFit. It's a diagnostic system that maps your body for you. It measures your height, your weight, your distribution of weight. It actually measures your lumbar curve and how flexible that is, along with a little bit of pain questions, and we're going to find the right fit for you.
The right fit for me?
The right fit for you.
Shouldn't have bought that GPS.
Yeah, it was probably a bad move on your part.
Mattress Land Sleep Fit. The right bed, the right experience, the right price.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center from Madera, and my guest for this show is the incredible Bishop Carlton Pearson. He has been he's been a real inspiration to me in my life. And Carlton, as we were talking, going away to the last break, Neil Donald Walsh, your introduction to his book, how did that come about?
One of the elders in my church at that time, this was about 12 years ago, whose 60th birthday we celebrated last night here in town, Tommy Todd, walked up to me and said, "Pastor, you have to read this book." That was like on a Friday afternoon as I was leaving the office. I took the book, I started reading it that night, read it. It was a page turner. It was called Conversations with God, his first of his 30 series. He's writing his last one now. I got so excited. I read all Friday night, most of Saturday, got up in the pulpit on Sunday morning and announced the book and told my people how it had impacted me and how cool I thought the book was and they should read it. The next day, Monday, they went out to the local bookstores, but it wasn't in the Christian bookstores, which they assumed it would be, since it was called Conversations with God. They had to go to the secular bookstores, and when they got to the secular bookstores, they asked or made inquiry about the book, and they pointed to the New Age section. It actually said New Age. So I lost about 30 families that week.
Oh, boy.
And that began to uproot and just topple the whole ministry over the next several years. I gained this incredible insight, this incredible self-elevation and actualization and realization, but I lost the traditional things I'd spent the first 50 years of my life to build.
Yeah.
The church, the property, the relationships, the friendships at this conference that, had 50,000 people coming here. Our church averaged 4,000 or 5,000 people a week in the building, on the grounds.
Right.
We had a 645-acre ranch for inner city troubled teens with a 27-acre lake on it and horses. And I had built this incredible, we had a school of ministry. We had a fellowship of 600 churches. It was a major movement. And this one revelation that there is more, and that maybe we had misinterpreted God, and this whole idea of a literal hell that is eternal and eternal damnation and the obscenity and vulgarity of that, I just, and I intentionally, consciously, unintentionally, and unconsciously changed.
That's what
it was an inner shift. And so here I am 12 years later, and I'm actually hosting the Man in My Town.
Yeah. And that was Thursday evening. How did that go?
The room was packed. The music was fantastic. I met all these people. There are actually 4 different Conversation with God study groups in this town. Go figure.
Go figure.
There's the guy that has the yoga studio, and they have festivals. I never knew about this. Many of them had never even heard of me until the newspaper article. And they're people that were brought up in Southern Baptist and Catholicism and various aspects of Pentecostalism, Protestantism. These are what I call recovering fundamentalists who are rethinking constantly and evolving, and they're getting into energy healing and ionic cleanses and vegetarianism. I call myself a meat-eating vegetarian. I have vegetables with my meat.
There you go.
But these guys are shifting their lives, and so they want to meet regularly. They want to meeting. And so we made a lot of new friends and contacts. We're designing a newsletter to keep the communications between these different groups and sort of rally them around a larger self-expression in this city. Very exciting.
Now,
Tremendous.
this was kind of in conjunction with your
Church Without
Without Walls. But you're going to take this on the road with Neil. You're going to travel around, and you're going to go to various cities. How did that kind of unfold as this thing that you're doing?
Well, we want to come to you, Steve. We want to come to that part of the country. He lives up in Oregon, and but we're doing Atlanta. I told him that I thought and felt part of my mission, just part of it, was to help reach the African American community, faith community, who are restless and many of them, particularly the same gender loving community that have been rejected by the church but still love God. Many of them follow Jesus, and they're very gifted, and they're songwriters and they're worship leaders, and they just are hanging out there. Then you've got another group that don't like the dogma of, in the black church, they don't like the dogma of institutional religion, but they like a worship experience. And many of them are Pentecostal, as I am, but they're into metaphysics. They're listening like my 85-year-old mother watches Super Soul Sunday with Oprah on Sundays. She's a classical Pentecostal lady that was very staunchly holiness or hell type mentality. She loves Eckhart Tolle. Deepak Chopra and I have met, and we did. I think you may have seen the what do we do? Nightline together.
Right.
And become friends. And so I'm meeting all these people, and I see that there's a whole nother world out there who don't call themselves New Thought, but they are thinking New Thought.
Yes, we are.
And reading New Thought and don't know that it's kind of a legitimized movement. So I'm bringing them in, and I told Neil that his book was incredible, and that one of the first people to introduce me to it, the first person was a black man, the next was a black woman who called his book her Bible.
Yeah.
And he was shocked. So he was feeling like he'd kind of run his course. I said, "Oh no, brother, you're the godfather of a movement and the grandfather of a movement among certain people. You sold 15 million copies in 37 languages. What do you mean? Let's kick it in again." So he's pretty inspired. So we're going to go to Atlanta and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the LA area, Laguna-like area. I even ran into Rob Bell, who wrote the book Love Wins. He came out of a fundamentalist background. I attended his sort of incognito. I attended his conference in Southern California about 2 months ago, and my name wasn't on the registration. So he saw me, but he didn't. My name wasn't there, and he kept trying to figure out, is that CarltonPearson sitting in this room? It was just like a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
And somebody introduced me to him afterward, and we became friends, and he was so fascinated. He had heard the This American Life interview some years ago.
Oh, yeah. And, you have people like Della Reese and the late O.C. Smith, who, are New Thought ministers or were. Wally Amos, who was in the movie, both the movies that you were in, What is New Thought and A New Thought, A New You. This is a powerful practicing philosophy, and it transcends any, because we understand a oneness of all. We can understand that there are no boundaries or separations or tribalism in our humanity as spiritual beings. We are truly one. And, we
all know that, but we don't believe that.
Yes.
Here again, true. We all know we are inextricably, inseparably connected. Neil talks about separation theology leads to separation psychology, separation cosmology, and separation pathology.
Yes.
This idea that we can be separated, but we cannot be separate. We are one. And so this whole idea of racism on the planet and ethnic bias or even gender bias, it defies the concept that we are one, and everybody knows we're one, but because we believe otherwise, we fight. Yeah. And that's what can help change.
Exactly, and I look back. Historically, we see the reason why tribes originally existed for protection, but as humanity has evolved, the need for tribes has gone away. But we still hold to that, whether it be through our religious, our social, our national, our gender, our racial, whatever. And there's a quote by a fellow by the name of Jadoo Krishnamurti, and I can't give it to you exactly, but it goes something like, if you identify yourself as an Indian or a Muslim or a Hindu, you're committing violence. And he goes on to explain how the true humanity, humanists that understands humanity, doesn't associate themselves by tribe. We're just that one. Mm-hmm. That's the love energy of all our spiritual beingness. That's what we share. And I love seeing you and Neil do this. I do hope you get to this area here. That would be great. But take it out there, bang the drums, bring the lights, and get that message out there. Because you see, Carlton, you touch people that people like Michael Beckwith will never reach, because of your Pentecostal background. You are a translator between New Thought and mainstream Christianity. People that have questions and question their Christian faith can come to Bishop CarltonPearson and hear, how did this work for him? And begin to understand this message that you bring. And it's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's 2 billion, at least 1 billion Christians. Most of them are Catholics. About 300 million are Protestants or Protestants. They protested Roman Catholicism. And those people, their number one idol is not Jesus or Mary alone. It's the Bible.
Yeah.
And the idol, Steve, that all human beings have, though, if there is one idol, it would be opinion. Mm-hmm. Your view of things.
Exactly.
Whether Muslim, Islamic, atheist, agnostic, Jewish, Christian, the way you view things, it's called ophthalmos in Greek. That's the Greek word for eye, where we get ophthalmology, right, or optometrist, or opinion, or option, the eye. Our opinions is what divide us sometimes, and become the idol. Whether there's a young man that flew up here from Mobile, Alabama, who's a Church of Christ preacher, mm-hmm, 2 generations. He loves New Thought. He's embraced New Thought, and in New Thought has embraced him. He wanted to hear. He stayed here with me and met Neil, hung out with me for 2 days. I just put him on a plane this morning, and he lost his church. He lost 3 churches because of his expanded consciousness. And I said, stop trying to do the Church of Christ thing. There's 2 Greek words for church. One is kuriakos, which means assembly or congregation. The other one is ekklesia, ek meaning out of, klesis meaning called or summoned. Called out of obscurity, the scripture says, or out of darkness, into the marvelous light or illumination or enlightenment of the soul. When I say church without walls, I'm not talking about congregation or assembly. I'm talking about people who have awakened,
right,
or who want to be awakened to the light and connect with other people.
We're gonna continue this. We got to cut away for our last break. Boy, time has just flown, Carlton. So we'll see you when we get back.
Okay.
This segment brought to you by Tioga Sequoia Brewery. Central Valley Talk is fueled by Tioga Sequoia Brewery in downtown Fresno.
Red Point Property Services will help you become a real estate investor. We buy houses for cash, repair, and sell them. We help people gain 10 to 20% on their investment. We also help families achieve the dream of home ownership. Visit redpointpropertyservices.com.
We are conveniently located across from Bullard High School on North Palm Avenue in Fig Garden. Morales Wellness Dental offers quality-oriented family dental care and service in a personalized and comfortable manner. As you enter our office, you'll always be greeted by our warm, caring dental team and will be invited to relax in our finely appointed lobby. We have 7 patient treatment suites that feature monitors for your in-op entertainment and diagnostic review. Our comfortable hygienist suites are the ideal setting for regular cleanings and checkups. As safety is our utmost priority, all instruments are put through our modern sterilization center. Furthermore, our sedation suite offers you both comfort and peace of mind during advanced dental procedures. And for your privacy, we have 2 separate patient consultation offices. Take the worry out of your next dental visit by calling us today. Experience our commitment to excellence, respect, and honesty at Morales Wellness Dental.
Simonian family has been farming in the valley for 3 generations. Cold weather, drought, or accidents made ag investments risky. In 1951, C.D. Simonian started his own insurance agency to protect valley farmers from the uncertainty of the unknown. For your agricultural insurance needs, call C.D. Simonian Insurance Agency at 559-834-5333 or visit us on the web at cdsimonianinsurance.com. For all of your real estate needs, call Mike Briggs Properties, 559-486-6758, or check us out at MikeBriggsProperties.com.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Viewers of Central Valley Talk, what is your home worth? The experienced agents of Mike Briggs Properties are offering a free property valuation if you mention Central Valley Talk. Find the value of your property for free. Call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758. Mention Central Valley Talk. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I'm the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Madera. My guest for today is Bishop CarltonPearson from Tulsa. Carlton, we've been talking about the evolution within the church, the Christian church community, and there's a lot of literature, a lot of books out there and studies about people leaving the old thought Christian dogmatic teachings, but still seeking that spiritual connection. Still, I believe that we're hardwired for a spiritual connection of some sort, and I think science kind of backs that up. But, where do you turn? When you come from the Christian, particularly the fundamentalist community, which is very tight, the Bible is the literal Word of God, and as we were saying before we went away to the break, oftentimes it becomes the idol that, people believe. How do they, you've got to be dealing with a lot of that, talking to a lot of people, not only in congregations, but in ministers and stuff. How does that work for these people? Because it's got to be traumatic in some ways.
Well, it's traumatic, and the word trauma is the Greek word for wound. There is a kind of a pain and pathos or pathology that goes along with evolution. Even when kids are growing and their bones extend, or when young girls' breasts begin to enlarge, they feel pain, or sometimes just growing teeth when children are teething. The culture itself is teething. The culture itself is coming out of a species, is coming out of an adolescence, or from a childhood and consciousness to another stage in human development. And that's why when you think of Steve Jobs and the cell phone and Silicon Valley and this computer that I'm talking to you live through, and I'm looking at you and you're 2,000 miles away from me. If technology can advance at this pace, and it's a really fast pace, my father, who just transitioned at 88 years old, saw more technological evolution in his 88 years than the last 1,000 years.
Huh?
So if people can evolve technically or in technology, cannot we evolve in consciousness just as fast? So remembering, and I tell people the drama and trauma of development is literally remembering what your soul already knows and contains. We're not teachers, Steve, we're reminders. We remind people of what they already know and have forgotten. When people read certain books, they go, oh my God, I knew that. I've always felt that. They say believe that. They really mean I've always known that. I haven't believed it because I believed what I was taught and told. But we come here from whatever pre-incarnate reality we originate in, knowing that we know.
Yeah.
And the challenge is to to avoid or transcend the amnesia that the culture, earth culture itself, insists and imposes upon us. That's the biggest conflict. And so when I tell people, just listen to, and Neil said this the other night in the session, listen to the wisdom of your soul. Your soul is wise. The word is psyche in Greek, from which we get the English word psyche or psychology, the logic of thought. Your thoughts know this. Your essence reclaims, recalls, and reconnects to this, or recollects it. So listen to your soul.
Yeah.
Not necessarily some preacher, but listen to your soul, and your soul will dictate who you are.
Exactly. And so in the new era of Carlton Pearson now, how do you see, where do you see yourself going? You're working with Neil on this particular program. You've got the Church Without Walls. What is on the horizon for Bishop Carlton Pearson out of Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Well, I've learned now, after losing everything, it's not about income, it's about impact. Mm-hmm. I feel that not only the message of New Thought, but the mission of New Thought. Many people who embrace New Thought are aware only of the message, but they're not aware of the mission of New Thought, mm-hmm. which is to change the culture of the planet.
Exactly.
Help us review and revise our opinions about God and our appraisals of God and our evaluations, and let's extend and expand the reach of our reason and our logic beyond institutionalized religion. And in that, we bring about peace. People experience, once you realize you cannot anger God, mm-hmm. you cannot offend God, you don't need to defend God. You kind of relax into this place, like, it's not complacency and it's not arrogance, it's just confidence. You confide in that reality, right, and trust it, and you become less anxious, less punitive, less defensive, less intimidated. And when we have peace within, we extend peace without.
Exactly. We call it, this knowingness of God, practicing the presence of God. And when we have that, to live God fearlessly is a phrase that I absolutely love. Live God fearlessly. And that means living in that consciousness of peace, of oneness. It doesn't mean going out, knocking down doors or whatever to get people to believe your beliefs, but it's to live without fear, to live in harmony with what's going on. And as you do that, your light, your energy grows and it glows beyond you, and you touch other people, and it's amazing the transitions that you see in the life of people that embrace this and become a part of this philosophy as they embody it in their lives. And
Joel Osteen was in town and filled up the Bank of Oklahoma 16,000-seat arena the other day.
Yeah.
And some of his staff, 5 of them actually, met somebody who works for me and said, do you think Bishop Pearson would sit with us? We heard This American Life. One of them was Southern Baptist, other was Classical Pentecostal, other one's from a Methodist background, but they came and they said, we are, and Joel's whole tenor is different than the average televangelist.
It is.
Christian fundamentalists call him Christianity LITE. Yeah. They're very angry at him but he's got atheists listening to him, agnostic. He borders on various forms, as you would I'm sure agree, of New Thought.
Yes.
Well, his inner working people are very into New Thought, and they have been following my writings and work for years, and they were astounded. They actually came to my house and stayed till almost 2 o'clock in the morning. They said, we just want to pick your brain. These guys in their 30s, they're young family men. They're raising their children. They want to raise them differently. They've been brought into fundamentalism, and they've come out of that. They're working with this world-impacting ministry. And Joel sent his regards, his mother. I've known them for many, many years. They are bordering on, and I think it's ordained by the universe that they should be, particularly him, leaning and looking toward expanded consciousness.
This is wonderful.
Something powerful is happening, Steve. You guys have been in the trenches for a long time, but I'm telling you, I know where the movement is headed, and I can see where the movement is. Now, when I say movement, where there's real moving, real movement, it's outside of the institutional forms of New Thought, because there's a movement in spirit that is awakening people all across this globe.
And how wonderful is that? Well, Carlton, we just don't have enough time, my friend. I hope we can get together and do this again in another 6 or 7 months or next week or whatever. I thank you for your time. I thank you so much for what you're doing.
Love you, your lovely wife, and the staff who are helping you. God, I always say God bless and God be all of you.
Blessings to you, my friend. And
Thanks, sir.
We'll talk to you soon. As I close, remember, please, that wherever you are, God is. The presence of God doesn't ever leave any part, any place. So when I say the light of God surrounds you, that is the truth, and the love of God enfolds you, and that is a fact. And the power of God protects you is a reality that you cannot deny. And the presence of God looks over you, because truly wherever you are, God is, and all is well. Have a great week, my friends. Blessings and bye.
This segment is brought to you by Mike Briggs Properties. The recession's over. It's now safe to sell your home. Call Mike Briggs Properties. For all of your real estate needs, call Mike Briggs Properties, 559-486-6758, or check us out at MikeBriggsProperties.com.
For Italian cuisine, you've grown up knowing that DeCicco's in Clovis has the best. Now, for grown-ups, DeCicco's Lounge at Clovis and 4th in downtown Clovis for your after-work relaxation and all of your special events needs. DeCicco's Clovis Lounge.
CentralValleyTalk.com